I think this is a nice piece of heat treat, but I can't remember where I got it. So, I don't know. Let's see. It looks almost like Georgia jasper. It's got a crystal pocket right there, which is pretty common with Georgia jasper. It's a pretty good sized piece. Yeah. Very nice. I mean, this looks almost exactly like Alabate's colors up here. But the rest of it looks like Georgia jasper. Yeah, I'm going to save these bigger flakes that come off here. Not that they're all that big, but I need to save the little ones now because I'm making more little points. I still have all, well, not all, but most of my exotic flint and chert flakes from years ago stacked up in boxes and buckets. I'll slowly get to all those and either knap them or sell them. We'll see. I really shouldn't be working on this size of a point just before the auction. But I've already got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got some already available for sale, small ones. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this piece. I might sell this as a biface along with another one. Yeah. I was looking at simple blades in the Overstreet guide. Yeah, just simple blades without notches. There's a bunch of different cultures who made just the blades along with the little dart points or arrowheads. But you don't see too many people discussing the blades that are not notched. Unless it's paleo or early archaic or something exotic. Like the Aztec sacrificial blades or something like that. Otherwise, I guess most people are bored with just blades. That's what I get for hitting it over and over again in the same spot. I lose some of the tip. That's all right. Yeah, if you hit in the same spot over and over again, nothing happens, and you change your direction slightly or the amount of force, it usually does something unpredictable. Yeah. Just because you shift from making a flake to actually trying to do anything. Yeah. if you keep hitting the same spot over and over again and nothing happens, you lose sight of what the original flake path is, and you just want something to come off. Yeah. You do have to have a slight picture in your mind of where the flake's going to go with every strike. It doesn't have to be a perfect idea, just you have to keep it in mind as you're striking so you don't lose the direction of the strike or whatever, or the positioning of the workpiece. Yeah, I'm going to lose some length because this stuff down here is a little bit crunchy and unpredictable. And there's still cortex right there, so I'm moving the edge that way so I can strike some flakes in that area. Although I had a recent question about why sometimes you'll see cortex in the base area of an artifact. You don't see it all that often, and it's even more rare as a particular feature of a point type. You know, but I think most of the time they would leave the cortex in areas where it'd be covered up by the hafting anyway, so it didn't matter. You know, the less work the better. If you don't have to remove the cortex, and that's, you know, why remove it? Especially down here. It's not that it's stronger when you leave a cortex on there. Sometimes you leave it on there so you don't cut yourself. Like if it's a hand axe, you can leave a bunch of cortex here. But if you're hafting it and it's covered up, then you can have cortex down there. It doesn't matter. Yeah. All right. Sometimes a question seems kind of obvious, but I don't know. And the answer seems kind of obvious to some of the questions I get. I guess. But it's good to ask the question because you might miss something that you didn't think of. There's more than one obvious thing, perhaps. Yeah, it might not be obvious if you miss it. It's like, I guess that's the opposite of being obvious. I think you know what I mean. Those are the noon church bells. The church bells ring a little bit extra at noon. Okay, I'm getting a phone call. Hold on. Okay. I'm back. Just a phone call. Yeah, medical stuff. I can't get away from the phone interruptions, the calls either. Yeah. Lots of stuff, lots of errands to run and lots of phone calls. Always. All right. Where was I? Yes. I was in the process of thinning this. Yeah, this is the scary part. It looks a little bit delicate on the terminations. Or the endings of the flakes. I got little remnants at the ends of the flakes, which indicates that the material itself is delicate, like kind of like obsidian type delicate, because it is a heat treat. Now that could cause a major problem if it's really wide and I try to thin it down and I can't predict what's going to happen at the end of the flake. I like it to be nice and feathery if I want to try to thin a wide point. If the flakes are not going to be feathering out well, then I've got to rethink my strategy and make it more narrow so that I don't have to shoot these flakes very far. The shorter the flake, the better the terminations are in many cases. The longer the flake, the more unpredictable in most cases, right? Some material you can flake it right across and it's predictable the whole way. But for the most part, most materials are unpredictable and they become even more unpredictable as the flake travels. So, but I do see some crunching here. That's not even at the end. It's just these crunched and stopped right in the middle. But that's the delicate nature of this heat treat and the technique. If I don't use enough force to drive the flake, it just does not go. Perfect. Almost perfect. As perfect as I could expect it. Yeah. See how the terminations are weird? See the last one here, I wanted to dive a little bit into that ridge, and this one here stopped with a little bit of a step fracture at the end. Whereas on some materials it's all nice and smooth. Even when there's a ridge that the flake might go into, it'll pop out instead of trying to dive in. But I've noticed throughout the years that I don't really pay attention to exactly what's going on at the termination of the flakes. I just try to clean it up with more flakes. I don't study, probably I don't study as much as I should, the shapes and the contours of the flake scars. I just hope for the best in many cases. Because you never can tell, you know, everything's different. Every flake is different. Yeah. You gotta have you gotta have ability, you have to have the ability to store a huge database of information on flakes. To get a good idea of what's going to happen. And yeah, you develop that over time, mainly subconsciously. You get the feel for, well, that's probably not going to work. Why? I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's going to work. You're trying to teach someone, and they're about to do something, and you go, wait, don't do it quite that way. And then they ask, why? I want to know why you don't want to do it that way. And you have to kind of say, well, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. And that's because you're subconsciously drawing on memory that's too complex to know consciously. Yeah. Some call that intuition. When the brain has a little shortcut to the access to memories, so that you don't have to spend all day thinking about it, which is good. But in Flintknapping, when you're trying to teach it, it's not so good, because you don't know how to put it into words. Why am I going slow sometimes? Why do I speed up? Why do I take chances in certain areas and not in other areas? How much does the mood affect the napping? To what degree? A scale of 1 to 10. 10 being it's always mood, and 1 being not mood dependent at all. I don't know. Some flakes are scary for no reason. It just feels scary. Some flakes don't feel scary, but they should. And you end up messing up, because you should have been more wary about certain flakes. And since you weren't, you messed it up. Yeah. Took too much out of the side, or snapped it. Snapped the whole piece. Anyway, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to make it nice and flat and smooth on both sides, and getting it thinner in the process. The longer you flint knap, the more you can do more than one thing at once. When you're first starting out, you should just concentrate on getting flakes with no step fractures. Doesn't matter how long they are, and doesn't matter how thick the point is. Just try to get flakes without step fractures, because that's the most aggravating thing for most people. Other than breaking the thing in half, it's the step fractures. There's an instinct that we have that we don't like step fractures. Yeah, I don't know why, but no one likes them. They don't really matter all that much. In most cases, the point will function with a step fracture in it. Yeah. It just looks like it's messed up. If it's got a step fracture like that, it looks messed up. But it doesn't detract from the function of the point, unless you have to have it perfectly smooth for some reason. I can't think of any reason why you would have to have it perfectly smooth, especially if you're cutting meat. It's such a soft material. Meat is such a soft material that you don't need the stone face to be smooth. And they didn't know about bacteria accumulating in those crevices. All right, if you're constantly cutting meat, you could have a buildup of bacteria in some of these step fractures, and they might know that it's you get less sick if you cut with a clean knife, but they don't know why. And part of having a clean knife is having a smooth surface. They could know that just from experience, but they don't know why. And then we're born with that instinct to make sure everything's nice and neat. Yeah, I think we do have these instincts where we like things nice and orderly and nice and neat, because it happens to be healthier that way. Just by coincidence. And you might say, well, there's probably bacteria that builds up in the edges because there's a lot of little pockets and areas where bacteria can accumulate in these little step fractures near the edge. So that don't make no sense. Yeah, maybe so. But for some reason, it's so much nicer to have a nice clean surface. Instinctively, we have that instinct. Otherwise, we wouldn't work so hard trying to get these things nice and neat. Now you might ask, well, since heat treat looks a little bit crunchy, and since we have an instinct for neatness, if it naps neater in a raw state, why would you heat treat? Yeah, looks all nasty when it's got these crunchy heat treat characteristics. Well, it depends on the napper, right? If he heat treats it and he goes, you know, I don't know, heat treating kind of makes it easier to nap, but it's all kind of crunchy looking, he might not continue to heat treat. It might only be some of them. Yeah. Or he gets tired of napping the raw stuff, so he heat treats it. Then he gets tired of the heat treat, so he doesn't heat treat it. It goes back and forth. I think for the most part, and I don't like speaking in generalities, but for the most part, if you can heat treat it, it makes sense to do it, because it just makes the whole thing a lot more pleasant. Yeah, and it's easier on your tools. Your tools don't get beat up as badly when it's heat treated. If you are one of those people like me that doesn't like maintaining the tools, that's an important thing. And it's not that I don't like maintaining tools, because I like to make stuff, and I'll make the tools, and I will enjoy it as long as I have nothing else to do. But if I'm in a hurry to nap something, and then a tool gets worn out, it's just another delay. I'm in a hurry. I don't want to deal with the tools. That kind of thing. If I don't have nothing else to do, if I ain't got nothing else, then it's alright. Doesn't bug me too much. Okay, here we go. I get nervous at the tip. Hold on, let me make this look better. See, it's too many pits. And some of those pits can catch the edge and pull the edge too much. And then you pull the point tip right off. Yep, that does happen. And I prefer to grind it off instead of peening it, because peening changes both the hardness and the flakiness of the tip. By peening it, sometimes portions get flattened out and it forms like a flaky layer over the surface, and those pieces flake off, and it's just not as predictable on the flake removals as a clean, fresh surface. Okay, so that's why I prefer to grind it down. So So I re-exposed the soft copper, and I don't have to worry about pieces flaking off from there and causing an unpredictable flake removal. Oh yeah, that works. Yeah, see that? That's actually really good. That means the previous tip was way too pitted and way too something that wasn't good. It was way too something. Yeah. It just works better now. Why? I don't know. I don't know for sure. And you don't need to know for sure. You just need to know it works better. That's all. You don't need to know the name of the stone or the type of stone. Just, does it nap? Yes? Good. No? Bad. That's it. Yes, good. No, bad. Simple. Keep it simple. If you can. Some things you cannot simplify too much. Yeah. Oversimplification can mess you up. When do I think it's proper to use the file compared to the grinding stone or the abrader? Well, when it gets too close to the very final finishing, the file allows me to be more precise in my filing or in my abrading. But it's fatiguing, and because I have to focus also more on what I'm doing with the file. So I save it for the end so I don't get burnt out. And I do a lot of my damage control at the end of the flaking for that reason as well. I want to be able to do the home stretch at a good pace, just like running a marathon or whatever. Right? The Flintknapping has many characteristics that are similar to a sport, which in general, again, generally speaking, it probably would benefit you to consider Flintknapping to be a sport rather than just a straight handicraft, because of the risks involved and the practice involved. The physical requirements and the concentration and all that. It is very similar to a sport. It's more similar to a sport than a handicraft. Although there are elements of both. Some of you might ask, when am I going to do more knapping with natural tools? Well, let's see. It's not that exciting for me to use natural tools, and I'm trying to come up with a sports analogy. Knapping with natural tools, I guess it's like playing golf with the old style clubs and stuff without the high-tech materials. I'm not a golfer, so I'm just kind of guessing, but I don't think anyone uses antique clubs these days to play golf. I think they use the high-tech stuff. It's much better, right? So why use the antique Flintknapping tools? You know what I mean? So that's what it's like, you know. That's why I don't use them very often, because for me it would be like playing a sport with the antique equipment. Yeah. There are advances in the equipment, okay? All right? There's advances in the equipment for a reason. Sometimes it's even based on safety. Yeah. Imagine that. Is Flintknapping with the original natural materials unsafe, you might ask? I could get into a whole controversial argument on that one. I could make stuff up and say, oh yeah, it's not safe with the old stuff. But I'd be lying. It's not safe regardless. Right? Is it safer with the new materials? Now there's some evidence that it is safer with the new materials, especially eye protection. It's not really considered a Flintknapping tool, but it's part of the kit nowadays. So yeah, you can make the argument that the new stuff is safer if you include the safety goggles and all that. The gloves. Well, it looks like I have a previous piece of stone stuck in there. And I just reopened it. I think it was a piece of quartzite crystal. That was handy. I had a piece already stuck in there. I remember that. And I just sliced it open and it came out. Nice. Let me put a band-aid. I don't like getting the blood everywhere on the work pieces. It'll stop soon, but I don't like these little interruptions. I could go get a drink of water, get a sandwich. Well, I don't eat sandwiches anymore, but you know what I mean. Go get something to eat and come back and the bleeding would stop. But I don't want to be interrupted. What is that? Let me see. It's bad enough to get my cooties all over this. Right? I'm gonna put this in the auction. I don't want it to be all nasty. All right. Gosh, it's getting very dicey to thin it down more. Yeah. But I'm going to have to do it. Because I know that I can. I know that I can thin that down. So I will. But I'm going to try to do it in a as careful a way as possible. Toward the end. I'm less careful in the beginning stages, as you probably know by now. Oh yeah, and if you have not hit the like button, and if you like the video, hit the like button. If you're watching TV and you can't hit the like button because there's no like button available for you to hit while you're watching TV, okay, but I don't know. I'm just guessing that those of you who are watching this on TV don't have the option to hit the like button. I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. Why does it matter? Well, YouTube will promote videos with more likes. The more likes your video has, the more the YouTube will promote it. Do they actually promote videos? Yeah. There's something in the way that they advertise, or suggest, I should say. Something in the way they suggest videos that has to do with how likable the video is, or how liked. Yeah, because they've told me as a content creator and partner in YouTube, they told me if you get lots of likes, it's to your advantage. So I said, okay, cool. I get lots of likes on my videos. Now, there could be a higher proportion of likes. I would like more likes just because it helps promote the channel. But it's also nice to have lots of likes. Yeah, it boosts your ego, makes your head all fat. Yeah. That's always good. Yeah. Let's be honest. I tried to clean up most of that, see that, with that big old flake, but it didn't quite work because of the unpredictability of the ending of the flakes. They don't feather out all that well. So I'm just going to leave it that way. Yeah. Just thin the rest of it to the best of my ability and within reason, so that it doesn't snap the whole thing. And when I feel like I've reached the end of my ability, then I switch over to pressure to sharpen it and make it nice. Make it nice. Is that a Flintknapping term? Make it nice? What do you mean? Make it nice. You know it when you see it. Yeah. That's all I can say. You can tell that I've made it nice, but you can't explain it. You can only see it. You know it when you see it. That's part of the artsy side, making it nice. That's where the artistic type of aspect comes into play. Like in sports, when when you improve your form when you're doing a sport, so that you're not only being successful at scoring a goal or whatever, but you do it with some pizzazz. Yeah. That pizzazz is the artistic aspect. And it's hard to teach that. Yeah. In fact, I think in some cases it's not possible to teach the artistic side. Just the technical side. Alright, so now I'm going to trim around the edges. What is the ratio? Let me see. Millimeters, because it's easy with millimeters. 62 is the widest, 62 millimeter. And the thickness, that is 6 or 5. I would say it'd be about 5 millimeter, right? You seeing it for yourself there? 62 by 5 or 6. All right. So what is that? 10 to 1? Almost 12 to 1. If I really want to pat myself on the back, then it's 12 to 1. Okay? Yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah. If it's 5 millimeter. There we go. 12 to 1 right there. Now I'm just going to sharpen it all the way around and sell it as a biface. Yep. That's it. Don't need no stinking notches. Why don't I do all my points at 12 to 1? Because it's not easy. No. And the material has to cooperate too. Luckily, this material, even though it's a little bit crunchy at the end of the flakes, it is cooperative. Yeah. I was able to remove lots of flakes in this category where it's like paper thin. Where are they? You know, not exactly paper thin, but you know what I mean. Some of these are paper thin. If you can remove those kinds of flakes, it makes it much easier. Some materials are more conducive to removing flakes like that than other materials. Yeah. This one, someone else heat treated this, and he treated it to perfection, in my opinion. Look at that. Yeah. So whoever did it is a freaking genius. Yeah. Whoever heat treated it, they knew what they were doing. I was talking about heat treating earlier. One disadvantage is the crunchiness, but if it's done right, it can lead to some really thin artwork. Yes. Some people, they think which is fine. They think the thinness is part of the aesthetics, which is fine. Yeah. I don't really look at thinness as part of the beauty of the point, but some people do. For me, the beauty of the point is the balance of it. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, it just needs to have a balance to it. And just a balance in the side view as well. It can be all wonky, but as long as it looks good as far as balance goes, you know, as long as if it's got a dip here, it'll dip up and then dip down. As long as it's got a consistent wave in it instead of just maybe the tip skewed, then it looks good. It's got balance. I look at the balance, and I try to look at I like the look of bold flaking. Big old flakes. The pattern flake with the long ribbon flakes, it looks pretty good too, but I don't like it as much as the big bold flaking. I don't know why. I think it's because a lot of flakes, to me, make it look too busy. Yeah. But that's just, again, that's the artistic side. Some people like the busy look. Yeah. And some people like the thinness look. I like the balanced look. And sometimes I prefer the asymmetrical and not the symmetrical. I think it looks pretty cool if it's not exactly perfect as far as symmetry goes. Yeah, the danger of doing these pressure flakes, the long ones, is that sometimes they don't terminate all that well. I gotta be careful. I gotta be careful that the pad doesn't interfere with these terminations and that sort of thing, and make sure I don't get a lot of step fractures doing this process. Yeah, you can get lots of step fractures trying to do long flakes, and it's just, it becomes a vicious cycle where, whoops, gotta take more of the edge off, redo that flake, and in the process of trying to redo the flakes, it messes up the edge. You gotta take more of the edge off, and you end up losing too much of the edge in all your endeavors. Your endeavors actually make it look less appealing if you're into the thinness thing. Yeah. You know, you do all your damage control and you get everything not step fractured, and then you take a look at the side view and you go, dang, it's too thick now. Dang it. I don't like it. I just spent 2 hours getting the step fractures out and now it's too thick. Yeah. It's the way it goes. Got to compromise. You got to leave some of the step fractures in when it gets too thin, and I'm glad it rhymes. You got to leave some of the step fractures in when it gets too thin. I'm not looking to see how far these flakes are traveling because I'm just picking at the edge now. Just picking off those dull spots or those fat spots. Yeah. Almost the same thing. Sometimes the fat spot will be sharp, but I'll remove a flake anyway because even though it's sharp, it's too fat in that area, so I'll thin it down. Yeah. Get a nice sharp edge. One that catches your finger as you test it. If it catches the skin on your finger, you go, ooh, that is sharp. Ooh. Ah. Eek. I'm getting excited because this is toward the end of this. Yeah, I'm already getting burnt out on this piece because it does these things. It's not that great as far as the flake contours. It's a little bit crunchy. I have another one that I did yesterday. This one here, I have to sharpen this one up too. This will be in the auction. This is a beautifully heat treated black flint or black chert, and this is some of the best stuff I've ever worked. And I got it in a batch from somebody. I don't know if it was from Sal. I think my friend Sal sent me these pieces of beautifully heat treated black chert, and if I had a ton of this stuff, man, that'd be so sweet. That's not a hint. That's just, I'm just saying. Yeah. And this stuff approaches that black Chert heat treat. So it's been a pleasure working this stuff. Although if I don't write the name of the person who sent it to me on the rock, I forget who sent it to me. Unless I keep it in the box with their name on it. Yep. And a lot of times I don't keep the boxes with the names on them. Or I don't keep them organized. I'll forget that it came from a certain box and I'll stick it in a different box. Yeah. And I still accept lots of stone. I cannot refuse. Someone will say, can I send you this and that and this and that? I go, sure. Ignoring that I sometimes lose track. Or sometimes I can't get around to doing it. Can't say no. So just be aware. Be aware that I can't say no to rock. But if you're thinking I might get to it within a very short period of time, just be aware that I probably won't. I probably won't get to it anytime soon. And sometimes I forget entirely. Yeah. Or it gets stashed with something else and I think it's something I've already done. Once I have a bigger shop area, I'll be able to categorize all my stone and keep it in separate boxes and label with dates and names. But for now, I got stuff stacked on top of each other and all kinds of stuff going on. Yeah, I'm picking on this way too much. I'm trying to figure out what I should do here about some of these step fractures near the edges. I'm just going to leave it. Yeah, it doesn't look all that great, but I'll just leave it. Yeah, it's sharp. Oh, yes. It's just not perfect, but it's sharp. It catches your finger as you touch it. Yeah. Alrighty. So I'm going to patch these two segments together. I was interrupted by a phone call earlier. Right? Remember? Yeah, I like this stuff. Whatever it is. I think it is Georgia Jasper. Yep. Heat treated to perfection. I wish I could tell you what it was. But usually this stuff, in my experience, needs less than 400 degrees. But this might be exactly 400. It might even be 450, but I think if you're on the safe side, just heat it to 375 or something first to see if it works. If not, then go up to 400 or 425. Some of this stuff actually works good at 500 too, so you just got to experiment. I tend to go low on the Georgia stuff. Yeah, below 400 degrees. I've said that before, but there's so many new people, you probably don't know. All right, there you go. I like it. That's it.